Hello, welcome to Video 6. If you haven't watched the other videos, please watch them first. You will be out of place if you start here at this point if you haven't listened to them. But for any one of the very few of you who have made it patiently to this video so far, I thank you much, and we are going to continue going. Up to this point, society, after the leap, remember, had the trial of fire. We were woefully unprepared for the eternities. They made the leap into the eternities, to immortality, if you will, if you could call it that, with as many as that didn't make it, because they could. They made the leap because they could. They didn't want to die, and they finally had the technology to do it, so they made the leap. Then, if you remember, we had the trial of fire because we were just woefully unprepared for it, and we almost wiped ourselves out a number of times during that trial of fire as well. I mean, there was narrowing points we had in our society as well, a number of them. But also, we talked as over the years, there was basically two trains of thought. One train of thought that now there's basically no consequences, or so they thought. And so you do whatever you want, be with whoever you want, look like whatever you want. There's drugs that are safe, well, quote unquote safe. There's electronic drugs. There's living in a computer and feel literally whatever you want with no physical effects. I mean, you could do anything from kill each other over and over again to give yourself mind-numbing happiness with all sorts of artificial stimulants, and all in the safety of a virtual environment if you wanted to, and then step back into your body if you wanted to later. But that's one train of thought. It's basically the live and truly live while we can attitude. And then there's the other school that really wanted to get close to the people that mattered to them, that came to rely on each other because of the intense loneliness that comes with extreme long life, and seeing so many of your close family, just not make it. There was intense sadness with each group that was lost, each person that was lost, each family member, each parent, or each kid, each relative, each friend that just went off and didn't make it when they had the ability to. The lifestyle itself that they were leading was just not compatible with living forever, and there came points where they didn't care anymore. So, yeah, the family unit. Out of the trial of fire, the family unit was the thing that really, one of the things that really stood out, and that went from sort of, a smaller group of people that just didn't care anymore about the parties, to the way that we all live. It did that because we rely on each other. The relationships that we have do have meaning, intense meaning. And the ways in which they found to refine the relationships in terms of behavioral aspects so that we don't hurt each other, as well as hormonal so that we really feel close to each other, as well as things where we're even sharing feelings. Imagine not having to tell somebody that you love them, but to just share the feeling you have. I mean, I've felt personally some of what they have, some of the hormones and stuff that they have for relationships. And I can tell you flat out, it makes this world seem really, really, really ugly. It is something that if you felt it, or when you feel it eventually, it's something that you won't want to do without. And this is one of the great burdens I have, unfortunately, is having to be one of the very few that have felt that and had to just be ripped out of it over and over again. And so, yeah, that didn't make me a happy camper. But I can tell you for a fact that what happened there is that it went from the beginning from just naturally clinging on to people that really helped you get through those hard times. I mean, 'cause there was hard times and really helped you get through hard times, to an organized family unit with the extra hormones and the whole organization of how the kids are raised, how they come up to eventually get to be an adult, and all the structures and the politics and the educational systems that go with it. And it grew into something that was really the rock upon which our society was built. The post trial by fire society. It is not a society based upon just goodwill to each other. It's a society based on families, based on our relationships to each other. And keep in mind, I'm telling you the good theory. There are a couple of things that we still need to work on, but one of the really big strengths I can tell you is absolutely how deep meaningful it is to have those relationships, to have somebody you can completely trust, to get to the point in a relationship where you don't have as many of those fights as the husband's wife down here do, and you don't have as much of the stresses. It's instead of getting some of the fun physical stuff and just putting up with personality, I mean, you really deeply care about each other and feel each other and can trust each other. And I could go on forever and you just get bored, but when it comes down to it, I felt it over and over again. And it's deeper than I can ever possibly tell you. It's more meaningful than I can ever possibly tell you. Not just the husband and wife type of thing, because it's friendship in general. It's family in general. It's just the relationships you have there are so deep because you know full well you can trust people, because you can feel it. And you grow close to them over the many years. And it's some things that you just don't have down here. And you're not going to feel it down here, and I wouldn't want you to. Because it makes you intensely lonely not to have that once you have. Even as brief and fleeting of a time as I've had it I've had it a number of times. And each time is rougher than the last. Because you start to get used to it little by little, and it just makes this world seem cold and ugly, because the relationships we have here are so feeble, so fragile, so prone to people doing bad things to each other and to abuse each other. And it just seems so stupid that we cling on to greed so much. When how does that fill us up? I mean, it's nice to be able to eat, and it's nice to be able to have a nice house, but it goes so deeper than that. People elbow each other and hurt each other, and you can see all the things that the ultra rich are doing to the planet, to each other, to turn this all into a mess. And it's just like, what's the point? There's one thing that really fills me up, and that's certainly not having a bigger, faster car. I mean, I like having a bigger, faster car, but when it comes down to it, we have the technology to do pretty much what we want up there. I mean, there comes a time when what does a bigger, faster car matter as much? I mean, as long as you have I mean, not that we would have cars anymore over there, but you can have a car. I mean, they can certainly get one for you and find a place to drive it. It's not going to run on gas. I mean, you certainly don't need it for transportation, but you can have it for fun. But that's beside the point. The point is, there's plenty of stuff. Our society is not built around stuff. We do not work over there just so we can have more stuff and get yet even more of the stuff for the people that are rich and leading the society. There's just no point to it. It's just a hamster in a wheel, just going. We don't have too much of a choice down here because this is more of a natural environment. We haven't, as a society, reached the point morally or technologically where we can have it as easy as we do up there. But, and we do work up there. We do. I mean, there's automation, there's robots that take care of things, and we don't try not to make them look humanoid because not too humanoid because there's a line that you don't want to cross. But yeah, there is supervision we have to do. There's science we do. We still are learning. We still are growing. We know a lot of stuff, but what's the point on all this of doing that? The point is family. That's what we're really about. The relationships are what we were about. The friends, the deep meaning that we can help each other through this. I mean, because it's a stressful thing. Having to live for this long a period of time, we need meaning. And things are just good. I mean, they're good to have. We certainly want to get rid of them. But they're not good enough to help us make it through. Not after a certain amount of time. They'll entertain you for a long time, but they're not going to entertain you forever. And that's one of the big lessons that we came out of that trial of fire. So I know I'm sort of rambling on and on. I know that many of you probably have fast-forwarded by this point, but I need you to understand the mindset, at least some of the mindset that's going into this post-trial by fire area. Where they had tried stuff, they'd tried drugs, they'd tried this and they tried that. And one of the things that they kept going back to over and over was the family. And I told you about it. Okay, fine, yada, 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 move on. Okay. But we're going to keep coming back to it because it's the central point of everything, really. It's not the only thing. We have tons of other stuff. We have arts like crazy. We have... tons of stuff. We have science, we have you name it. I mean, all the things, other stuff that gives us meaning down here ultimately had its starts up there as well. So, yeah, there's tons of things. It's not just sit around with your family all day by any means. There's, amazing instruments. There's art. There's, you name it. But now back to the point. That I've probably successfully lost another one or two of you that didn't want to listen to it. Okay, so this is an important thing. I'm going to bring us back to the structure of the society. I already went over how the parents and the family unit, it's not just the parents, but the family unit is pretty much in charge. Parents lead it. The older returned students that don't have quite families of their own help out. And it's a joint venture to, that's sort of the organization. And then above that, you had the council level. And at the very, very top, you had the founders group. So, what are the kids? There's a lot of ways to diagram it. But if you think of pyramids, the shape of the pyramid, wide at the base, narrow at the top. That's sort of kind of the shape of society up there. You have more kids than you have adults. And there's 3 basic levels to the society up there. And think of it as 3 pyramids. The youngest of the young, there's more of them than the older ones. And then it's the bottom level. And then you get the middle level. There's more people just joining the middle level than there are leaving it. Just because we're getting bigger all the time. And same thing with level 3. The more people just entering it than they have been there for a long time. It's That's the pyramid shape. It's the society is growing. And the longer you're in the level 1, then you get to level 2, you get to level 3. And that's how it works. That's the post trial by fire shape to things. It's basically those 3 things. And then the first part of it, the first level is for the children. It's for the really, little children. And I know a lot about how it works now, so I'm not as familiar with how it worked pre-Earth, but post-trial by fire. But it's pretty much, the shape had pretty much gotten to be what it is, I think, for the most part. And that is, the nursery, I don't think was fully formed yet. But yeah, the little kids that are just starting out, they were really honest. They didn't have any much experience with hormones and passions, sex. They didn't really have any of those knowledge. The good and evil stuff that they knew it in theory, but they didn't really suffer yet. And so there's only so much you get without actually leading them up, getting that experience for yourself. I mean, you sort of know it in theory, but there's always something missing when it's more like an analytical lab thing. I mean, they learn and they grow with math and science really quickly. Like I said, the people there are a little taller than we are, only by a few inches to a few feet. Children start the same size. They go a bit taller, but all in all, that's the first level. It's the beginning of it is when you first are born there, and you're not married. What they did is prolong the period before puberty artificially. This was something that was controversial at first, but they needed, because puberty, yeah, that was a problem. As you, I'm sure, have seen lots of kids going through puberty. It was a bit of a problem. So they prolonged the period before, and so artificially, so that you could teach them more before they hit the wild time. And then once they hit the wild time, then at least they had more tools under their belt to be able to handle it with, at least simulators and wisdom and stuff that you can introduce. So, I mean, that really helped work to save a lot of people. They didn't hit the bulk of the craziness until they at least had more time to prepare for it. And, they, while as apprehensive as they were about that change at first, that really did work out. It really worked out to give people more time to grow and to at least get a little smarter before they hit the craziness, so that they can have a running start to manage that. Okay, so they had... okay, let's see what's next. Sorry. Okay, so that's the before puberty. Then you hit puberty, and then you learn more about all of the stuff that goes along with it. And this is still all in level 1. Level 1 does not end until you've had a chance to go through it and come out the other side and be committed to following the rules of the society. The rules of the society, the way that we do things, the sort of quirky nature of how we came to be because of all this. I mean, you need to understand the theory behind it. You need to understand the actual reality of being faced with hormones and faced with all this stuff and what you're going to do about it. And then you have to accept the reality of the adjustments that we had, the boosting of the family-related hormones, the taking away of, or the reduction of some of the other ones. I mean, because there were adjustments that had to be made. Like, for example, when you're married and you want to be with one person because of the intensely beneficial relationship aspect of it, it really didn't work to have guys be this attracted to every single woman that passed by, because let's face it, they are in the business of making themselves look very good, and they do, and that was a distraction that ultimately didn't really serve a purpose. It just was a negative thing, and yeah, this is one of the reasons why a lot of people fell away, because they just didn't want to not be attracted to every single person in the world, and so that kept them going in the lifestyle. But when it came down to it, it was more important making the sacrifice and being with the person you like, and the return on that was good. I understand that many of you don't want to be faced with the thing where you can look at, say for guys, you want to look at a girl and you don't feel anything for her. Well, the trade-off is that the one that you do, they boosted those feelings up quite considerably. You're not going to get bored, trust me. There's always a trade-off, and trust me, if you're concerned about it, there were hundreds of thousands or millions of people, or more than that, concerned about that same exact thing. These people did a lot of thinking, and they reduced the levels of attraction for people you're not bonded to, and did some really fun, interesting stuff with the person you are. So it all balances. But back to the organization of it. So in level 1, they didn't. I mean, other than the learning about the hormone stuff, they don't really have the whole marriage thing down there. You're just not given the permission. You're not given enough of the hormones or enough of the stuff that really you're going to. Well, when you're learning about it, yeah, but you're not really given that yet, because you're still learning, and you need to make the commitment. Once you make the commitment and you really honestly start believing in it, and it's more than that. It's the soul searching aspect of it. You have to have done enough soul searching to really be wise enough to make the decision. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, I commit. Yay, me too." No, you have to know what you're talking about. You have to have been through enough stuff to where you know. And the commitment is not made lightly. It's you know full well what the society is about. You've had the chance to experience enough of both ways. You know why the people that left, and you make a conscious decision that this is the right way to do it. You agree with that wholeheartedly. You're not being forced. Well, not really being somewhat. I mean, but you're not really being forced into it. This is something that you really believe in. And so then you enter level 2, or the second pyramid. Level 2 is where students start being told about what eternal marriage is and how to build very strong families. Back then, I'm not sure if they didn't know the whole time or not. I think they might have just known the whole time. I'm pretty sure they did. I know more about how it is now. And right now in level 1, when you come back, most people aren't told that marriage is even a thing. You go back there, and I believe this is one of the reasons why when Jesus was asked, in the Bible about marriage, they say, well, the angels don't get married. It's in the Bible somewhere. Because when you're coming back to level 1, you're not told about marriage. You're not told that there's relationships afterwards, because you need to do the soul searching. Level 1 is about soul searching now. I'm going to get more into the changes that have gone in since this time later. But yeah, it's level 2 that, especially right now, you're told that there is marriage, and that you're starting to prepare for it. Level 1 is about soul searching and learning to come into your own. Level 2 is about coming from that point where you really found yourself and know how to be wise, and start building upon that to be ready to be a strong family member and be a strong person that others can rely on, and be a strong leader of your family, and leader being boy or girl. I mean, you both have leadership positions that you're in charge of stuff. There's delegation of responsibility, but both of the partners have to be really, really on the ball. And so committed and very good at knowing how to be in a relationship without destroying each other. Because, like I said, family gets to be the fabric of society, not just family, but friends. And those bonds that we have between people are the fabric of society. It helps us stay strong. Everybody can know what's a moral thing to do and what type of actions can hurt people. But not everybody is in a position where they actually really care anything about it, especially over the extreme long time. I mean, you can know all you want, but over extreme long times, like, I don't care. I'm going to hurt him anyway. That's fun. I'll laugh about it. No, I mean, and so, yeah, this is a very important thing. Level 2, you're learning about marriage. You're getting ready for it. You're go through lots of different steps. So you start looking at each other for the first time now as, well, I mean, since you've passed this life. But of course, back then they didn't really have the same thing. But the first type of marriage is discovery marriage. I believe that, I mean, they didn't speak English. They can speak English, but that's not really their primary language. But it's like a discovery marriage. You sort of are getting a single, one person sort of singled out, and you're starting like the courtship phase and getting to start, really meaning something to each other and building the initial relationship. That's like the discovery marriage. It's going from look, I might want to be with this person, to starting to really grow closer to them. And that's basically the discovery part. I'm skipping over a bit, but these relationships limit your freedom somewhat, but they return the ease, loneliness, and pride, provide enormous amounts of happiness and meaning that it's not possible to live for eternity without. But the next marriage or level of marriage is called like a friendship marriage. The discovery would be getting to know each other and growing closer, but the friendship marriage is a lot more than what you might consider friendship. Friendship marriage goes from two people that really like each other and starting to really love each other to something way deeper. If you look at the marriage here, lots of times it's based upon finances, or it's based upon sex. It's based upon being stuck. But this friendship marriage, it purifies the way that you two are thinking about each other. It is a practice to be able to really get along with each other, to be able to not fight. I mean, of course, we don't have the exact same levels of hormones and exact same problem genes, so it is easier. But still, it's a bit of a thing trying to get really close to somebody so that you're on the same page, and so that you know how to treat each other, and so that you can really rely on each other through thick and thin, because you're going to be there for the eternities. There's, nowhere to go but death. You're gonna keep going, and then you need somebody to for the long haul. This is a survival technique. This is a survival thing that we need, in addition to being a deeply meaningful thing. It's survival. You depend on each other. Ultimately, these marriages are a lot of the reasons why we didn't die as a society. And so this friendship marriage is so much more than just friendship. It's getting to grow a really strong bond with the person that you're going to be spending all this time with, that is going to be your significant other. And that's really what that is. It's people have to get close enough in this friendship marriage to, once the time they're out of it, they can be sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, without being worried about being embarrassed what the other person's going to be thinking of them. You have to be able to be prepared to have the level of connection to where you can just not just talk, but freely share your thoughts with the other person. And it takes a bit of doing. I mean, yeah, you still have privacy here and there, but really, when you're at the stage where you can just send over a whole complete thoughts, and receive them and just sort of keep communicating that way, it is really interesting how close that you get. And it takes a lot of preparation for that, because there's a lot of embarrassing stuff that comes along with it. Because the thought is more than just, oh, okay, well, you go to the store, or okay, I'll go to the store, or something like that. A thought, our memories have so many connections in our mind. It's not just like, oh, when you're at a park, it's not just like, okay, yeah, I'm at a park, but there's always the context that's involved. There's always connections to this and that and the other, and it brings memories from way back, and it brings this feeling and that feeling, and there's so many things that go into one feeling, to one memory, and when you're sharing these things, it is a depth of knowledge that you're actually transferring back and forth, and you get to know each other intensely well. You don't understand how much information comes through in one thought. It is a lot, and the friendship marriage is really integral in helping to prepare you for this. But once you're at the level to where you can share that much, it's a deeply refreshing thing, because you know that someone, at least one person, understands you completely and gets you and still is there with you and wanting to have more. It's a really intensely satisfying thing, and that, along with hormones, really makes for a very satisfying, very satisfying thing. It just, there's no words for it. It's really nice. So, the division between the second and third is generally one where people are ready to go from their friendship marriage to the next level. So where they're going to start. There's a couple things. It's the next level where a lot of you get your minds out of the gutter. Are wanting to start the family process, of course, where the families don't really matter as much as the relationship process that leads to the families. Yeah, the physical stuff. Yeah, there's always some physical stuff, but I mean, the things that you're wanting and waiting for, a lot of that is the third level. But it's not just that. It's the commitment to each other. While the commitment in a discovery marriage, there's a commitment, and it's a significant commitment, but it's one that you can break. Now, the friendship marriage, at the beginning of it, it's a much more serious commitment. It really is. And towards the end of it, it is an entirely huge thing, because once you've gotten that close to somebody, that you can still cut it off if you need to, but it is really serious. And then level 3, you start to have the commitment where you're just not going to separate from somebody. I mean, you're going to work things out, because by that point, you both are really good individuals. You've soul searched, you've become really moral, really wise, really experienced. You've gone through the relationship process where you've learned how to be in good relationships, learned how to treat each other right, learned how to do all of the things that needs to be done in a relationship to have success, and you've had a long time to get really close, and you've had a lot of time to know if you really want to be in the relationship with that person or not. And after all of this, and after getting to know someone so intimately well as being able to share some thoughts, you get to level 3 is where you commit. You commit to have that relationship forever. And you seal yourselves to them. And it's a really, really special, a deeply meaningful thing. And like I said, it's a sacrifice. And many of you might just shudder at the fact of having to stick with just one person when there's so many other beautiful people out there. But like I said, you even if you agree with me, you probably can't possibly understand the depth of what it really means until you've really seen some of what went on. I mean, it's just empty words I'm telling you now, but that is so much protection for us, and it's so deeply meaningful that you just don't want anything else. You've come to really rely on this, basically this soulmate you've built this relationship with. You've come to rely on each other. And so you want to do that commitment. And it makes you feel better. It makes you more stable in the long run. And the family you build will also give you more stability and more things that are happy. Okay, I talk too much about family, but it is a really, really important thing. This is what level 3 starts out with. It's you're ready to make that commitment, and you've qualified, and everything's ready to do that, and then there you go. There's other qualifications too. I'm sort of brushing over. I don't really know every single one of them. I really don't. There's moral things you have to do, and who knows this hoop or that hoop. But for a relatively quick video, where I'm giving you the hugely brief summary of this, as long as you think it is, it's a hugely brief summary of all this. It'll have to do for now. So that's the beginning of level 3. There are some single individuals that can make it to the bottom part of the 3rd level in some cases. But by and large, they're not going to stay single for long, because then they don't want to. They need a relationship for the physical as well as for the emotional aspect of it. Now, as you've seen before, it is basically a pyramid structure. The bottom is larger than the top. More young people than there are old people, because this is the growth of our society. It's because you have more kids than parents, because when your parents have kids and they keep having kids, and it just grows like that. So it's that's why there's more at the bottom than the top. It's not meant to keep people down. It's just you naturally go through the ranks, and by the time you're through the ranks, there's even more people that were there where you were at than when you were there. So at that, the marriage at that level goes from a training one to a very serious one at that point. Like I mentioned, you make the commitment to just be there forever with a person and to share your eternity with them. You make the commitment that if the person falls or falters and does some things they shouldn't, that you're going to make every single effort to help support them in their retraining and rejoinder to society, if it ever comes to that. It rarely doesn't, but there have been cases where some have had to been retrained, and they get retrained and join their family, and they feel okay because they're welcomed back in and have that continuity, and it's not like they're penalized with an unpardonable punishment they just wouldn't ever want. They do return, and they like that, as well as the people that were around them miss them and they want them back. And so, I mean, this is the commitment you make. So, as you're growing and getting higher and higher, as you could tell, it's really simple. You get to have your families. You get to get the families to get bigger and bigger. Your kids then start having kids. You get people like kids that have returned from the earth life that help out raise the young ones. um, share the load. I mean, so that no one's overburdened. Because as important as families are, you don't have to spend every single waking moment doing nothing for yourself, but for everybody else. And so, yeah, it then it keeps growing to the top, and the top of the top is the oldest of them. And I don't think I brushed on this one yet, but there's a seniority, and it goes child to parent, child to parent, child to parent. So if there's something that you need help with, you ask your parent. If there's something your parent needs help with, they ask their parent, and so on and so forth. And this is the order of things because your parent has grown very close with you, and they're more experienced than you are, and they can help you out. All of this is done within the rules of society so that there aren't, like road families or anything. And also you have to keep in mind that you get families interconnected really quickly because kids marry kids, and you know what. And so it does weave a societal thread, not just top to bottom, but also side to side with the different marriages and the different friendships that are there. But yeah, this is generally the seniority of it. If you need help, you ask your parent. If your parent needs help, they ask their parent. And the people that have to deal, like say if there's two people that are having an issue, like any two random people that are having an issue, well, then you just keep going up until you find the strongest common ancestor. And they're still there for the most part and can take the responsibility of managing both because they are both in the direct line of each two people. And no matter where you go, you're going to find someone or multiple people that can fill that role. So pretty much for every person in society, if there's any problem that needs fixing between two people, you can find someone like that. Of course, there are courts as well. The courts there work differently than here. Their main goal is just to make sure that both parties reach a resolution that both of them can live with. So, I mean, that's basically that. I know it's been a lot of it's been a lot of theory, a lot of me droning on and on, but I think we are at a point where we can we're going to quit and go to the next video. The next video is going to be about the educational problems. I know that it sounds all weird and somewhat good, but there are problems in our society still. We need to work them out. And certainly after the trial by fire period, into the generally stabilized period, and before the Earth period, there were certainly problems that needed working out. As you could tell, we got into this whole Earth thing, which is weird and interesting. And more about the reasons why we got into the Earth thing and the educational problems that led to that in the next video. If you made it this far, that's hopefully going to be one of the payoffs, because that finally, if you can understand all this stuff, that'll give you more meaning to why we're here on Earth and why this world is as crazy it is. I will talk to you next time in the next video. Have fun.